I recently competed at a bodybuilding competition where I tracked my calories daily. I lost 18 kilos. I did 15,000 steps a day. I trained 5 or 6 days a week. And I managed to get second place in both competitions. I was so focused on the process and so focused on my training sessions that missing a session or having a cheat meal, it just wasn't an option. I wish I could say it was for some godlike discipline, but I actually think it came down to the consequences. You see, I believe that motivation is linked to the consequences of when we don't achieve the thing we say we're going to achieve. Stepping on stage in your pants and being judged is probably most people's worst nightmare. You stand on stage, you get judged for how much muscle you have, how little body fat you have. Then to be told you're fat and out of shape after working so hard for 24 weeks, well, that was my biggest nightmare. The embarrassment I would feel would be a huge motivator. So if I was to step on stage and to come away with anything less than a podium finish, to some degree, was a huge motivator. But more than that, the consequences I would face for not achieving my goals were bigger than losing the competition. I think for me, it was not being the person that I said I am. There's a price that we all have to pay to achieve our goal. And there is a price that we will pay if we don't achieve our goal. That price often comes with consequences, and those consequences become highly motivating when they are linked to our greatest pain. The consequence for me wasn't just the embarrassment of being a fat failure. It was the idea that people would see me for the person that I was afraid that I was. The consequence for me was deep, and it was linked to my biggest fears. I am afraid that I am the type of person who could not stick to my word. I am afraid that I am a failure. And I am afraid that I am not good enough. The consequences of me stepping on stage would be that everyone else would see the real me. If standing on stage was scary, being stripped naked of the image that I want people to see me as, well, that was terrifying. And that is highly motivating. So as soon as I stepped off stage, your recovery starts. And I'm not going to go into the details around contest prep recovery, but just know you have to gain some level of body fat in order to recover your hormones. But not being handcuffed by the goal of, or the consequences of stepping on stage meant that I didn't really have to focus on my diet. And that meant for me, focusing on keeping a lean physique was now out of the window. I wasn't handcuffed to that goal anymore. I didn't have to do that. And I think that was because the consequences now were gone. You see, the habits that I picked up through the contest prep aren't necessarily sustainable for my current life. And I think that's because doing them leads to a specific outcome. And that specific outcome is me being lean enough and doing a bodybuilding competition. And that outcome is linked to the consequences and the fears that when I say I'm going to do something, I actually am the type of person who does it. And when I say I'm going to do well, that I do well. Well, what is the consequence now? I have none. The meaning behind this contest prep for me was bigger than just me finding the best looking physique. It was to prove a lot of people wrong and to prove myself right. I think it was my Phoenix moment, rising from 2025, which was my worst year of my life to date, into 2026, which is the best year of my life. It was about me chasing the life and the goals and the dreams that I have, and at the same time having the consequences of not achieving those goals and the life that I was afraid of whipping me to move forward. You see, I had the life and the dreams in front of me. I had the consequences behind me. Having both of those things is highly motivating. You see, in life, we make decisions. We choose one life or another. We make trade-offs. And I think if you ever sit there and regret a decision you've made, I think it comes down to not truly understanding the consequences of making a decision. Because if you understood the consequences, you may not have made it. The true extent of the consequences might be the worst case scenario or the best case scenario. We don't really know. We just use past experiences to help us make a bet on if we choose one path over another, what are we expected to see? Sometimes the consequences tap into our deepest fears, and sometimes they don't. The ones that do, well, those are highly motivating. You see, the pain we experience from previous consequences gives us a blueprint of the amount of pain we can expect to experience when we decide to take a certain path. If we have no past experiences, then we don't know what decision to make. And this is where we may ask other people. You see, when I broke up with my ex, I asked 100 people about their current relationships, about their previous breakups, about when they found their long-lasting partner, just so I could understand the kind of monster ahead of me. You see, we have the monster that we know, and then we have the ones that we don't. And without prior knowledge, you may just be walking away from one monster and walking into your worst nightmare. So this got me wondering, is there a way that we can engineer consequences? Could we find a way to make ourselves motivated? And I think for us to engineer constant motivation, we need to identify our priority. We need to know the life that we want and what we're running towards, because any decision that we make that takes us further away from the life that we want and our priority, well, those decisions and trying to do something to motivate us to do those things, it becomes almost impossible. You see, everything that we do needs to move towards the life that we want. We either need to connect and link the current changes in or behaviors or choices that we want to make directly to our life's mission and our life's goal, or we need to artificially create consequences. And I think, take my scenario right now, I am not standing on stage in my pants. I have no motivation to have to eat healthily or to track my calories or to do 15,000 steps a day. The consequence of me not doing that isn't big enough. For me to engineer that, I would have to, I don't know, say post a photo of me topless on my story. Maybe that would start to engineer the consequence a little bit. If I said I'm going to lose X amount of weight, or I'm going to be this thing, if I say that publicly, well, then it comes down to tapping into my biggest fear again. Am I the type of person who sticks to his word and says that he's going to do what he's going to do and actually does it? Because if I say I'm going to do something and I tell the world, well, to some degree, I'm handcuffed to a goal again. And some degree, that is motivation. To some degree, that is engineered consequence. So I think that if you do want to stay motivated, you need to have a consequence which is big enough. And to make it big enough, it needs to be linked into something that you're afraid of, or something that you're afraid about yourself. Another video that I want to film is called Your Diary Shows Us Your Priority. And that is because what you choose to do and your daily actions will show you what you want. Yes, we may say we want a certain thing or we want a certain life, but what we do on a day-to-day basis, does that get us closer to that goal, or does that take us further away from our goal? What we want is always wrapped up in what we do, and what we do is normally wrapped up in our values. So our values show us what we want, and our values are normally a projection of what our greatest pain is. Artificially creating pain seems crazy, but simply playing out the consequences and highlighting the pain that would come from a choice that we make, well, that seems to be able to have the same effect. And this is to say that if you want something, find the pain that you will be in by not having it. We do this when we justify spending money on something which is way too expensive. We say it's going to improve our life by X amount, and we don't ever think about the downside, because the downside to some degree is just money. It isn't any physical, mental, or emotional pain. So therefore, the down payment on buying something a bit too expensive isn't that much, but the upside seems pretty great. The consequence, almost zero. So all of those things, physical, mental, and emotional pain, well, they make it harder for us to achieve our goals because we have to suffer in order to do that. We suffer to achieve the goal that we want, but you have to remind yourself that you suffer either way. You either suffer to get the thing you want, or you suffer never living up to your true potential. You see, I believe for us to be motivated to achieve our goal and to take action, we have to know what we want, we have to know what we don't want, and we have to know what actions are required for us to achieve our goal. We are always motivated when we exaggerate the upside and we downplay the downside. When we think of achieving our goal, we think of all of the glory and all of the greatness that will come once we achieve it. We don't think about the pain that's going to cause us to achieve that goal. That a lot of the time is because we don't truly understand what's required for us to achieve that goal. And then as the journey goes on, we get closer and closer to achieving our goal, or we get into the middle where we are just having to do the work. Motivation isn't high anymore because we've realized what it's going to require of us to achieve that goal. and the consequences for us stepping away don't seem that big right now. We have to constantly remind ourselves of the task in front of us, or the action that we must take is directly linked to the life we want and the goals that we have. And I think that's where people get it wrong, is they don't link what they do on a day-to-day to the life that we have. You see, it's very easy for us to take relief from short-term pain. So we do something and we do something and we take something to give us relief from that short-term pain. But if you're in pain right now and I say, do this thing, and in a year's time, you're going to get the rewards from it, that's a lot harder for you to justify than take this thing right now and you get relief instantly. And this is where delayed gratification and being able to do something for a long period of time without reward comes in. This is where consequences need to be linked to the bigger goal and on a bigger timeline than just to what's happening in the immediate and right now. I think if you can think long term and big picture, you are more likely to achieve bigger goals and achieve bigger things, and you are likely to stay motivated for longer if they are linked to, if the consequences of not doing the action to achieve that goal are linked to the life that you don't want. The consequences have to be big enough, and the consequences, if they are linked to fears that you have about yourself or fears that you have deep inside of you, those things are highly motivating. I think like a really easy one is, if anyone's ever been bullied, then their beauty standards that they have probably come because they were bullied for something. If someone went and had a nose job, well, that might be because they were bullied about their nose their whole life. If someone went and had a boob job, they may have been bullied by that. If you were a guy and you were always teased for having small muscles, you might be in the gym training for as long as you can. You may have been teased for how ugly your face is and you've gone, I'm going to go get all this beauty work done. You see, consequences are highly motivating. Our greatest pain is highly motivating. And I think if we tap into that by linking what we want to achieve to our greatest pain, we can find motivation, and we can have that for a longer period of time. So consequences are really important when it comes to motivation. Decide what you want. Understand what you need to do and the actions you need to do to get it. Highlight all of the positives that come from achieving your goal. List all of the consequences and the pain that you will be in from not achieving your goal. Keep writing as many things down as you can, and bonus points for linking those consequences to your biggest fears. Now I want you to write a story of the life that you would live if you took the path. Write a story of the life you will live if you don't. Then I need you to do all of the actions required to achieve that goal. Time moves forward even when you don't. My name's Charlie. This is Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. My goal is to help men who suffer with their mental health. It's to help men feel more confident in who they are. And we start in with doing that bit of mindset and a bit of physical health. See, if I can improve the physical and mental health of men, we will start to create a greater nation of people who can take on challenges and can help other people. That's the kind of bigger goal. If you want to join the community, give us a subscribe. We do lives on YouTube, and we have a community within our training app that you can join. If you want to lose weight and you are struggling, then you can join our free fat loss course. But thank you for watching. If this has helped, save it, share it, send it to a friend. My name's Charlie. This is Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. We'll see you on the next one.